Hi there! I'm so glad you're here for today's Assemble This video. I have a really lovely and sweet card to share with you today, featuring a unique fun fold, some Copic coloring, and the cutest little butterfly to keep it closed. It's a great way to use your large floral stamps with a fresh twist. So let's get started and assemble this card. Let's start out by creating our base, which is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper cut in half. So it's 4.25 by 11 inches. And then I'm going to draw a pencil line at 5.5 inches down the center of the card. And that's going to give us an idea of where we're going to stamp our image. This is the Tulip Symphony stamp set from Unity Stamp Company. It's this really gorgeous large tulip image that I really love. I stamped that in some black Copic friendly ink. I like to use Memento ink when I know I'm using Copics. If I don't know exactly my coloring medium, then I'll grab my amalgam ink from Gina K. Both of those are favorites of mine. So I'm starting out with some Copic coloring. I decided to go with 2 tones for my tulips. This is a favorite color combo of mine. I just really like the way the red kind of blends into the yellow, kind of gives us like a peachy tone overall. I started with the Y21 at the top of the tulip and just flicked down that marker so it kind of filled the top half of each petal. And then I came in from the bottom with my reds. I started with my deepest red, which was R24, and just kind of flicked that up, again, creating like lines that go into the center of each petal, so it kind of creates a gradient that will blend as I layer up each layer of red tone. Next, I went in with the R22, and then last I went in with R21. And then once all that blending was done, I do a second layer of my deeper tones. It just really helps to pop out that shadow, creates a lot of dimension in the image. And I don't blend this out as much because it'll kind of soften and blend into the ink that I already have laid down. So I'll just use the dark R24 and then the lighter R22 to kind of soften up that deep dark shadow that I'm building. And then I just kind of look at my image one last time and decide if it needs a little more pop of that shadow. And I'll add in a little bit more of the R24 just at the base, flicking it up so it kind of blends, but it really deepens up the base of that tulip flower. Now I've been coloring for quite a few years, so I have my technique down. I'm not an expert colorer, but I know the look that I like at the end. If you're just starting out coloring, it really just takes lots of practice going slow and doing layer after layer to really get the feel of the markers and how they're going to blend, how they're going to look on the paper, and a style that you really like. There's lots of YouTube videos out there to build up your practice and your style of coloring. I highly recommend checking out some YouTube videos and then just practice. Have fun coloring. The end result doesn't have to be used every time, but practicing is what will make your images look a lot better. I'm going to do the same coloring motion and layering with the leaves. I'm using a trio of YG colors, starting with the darkest again, which is YG67, and I'm following the lines that are built into the stamp. It's almost realistic, but then it also has a cartoony feel to it. So I'm kind of mixing that up with my coloring as well. It doesn't have to be exactly realistic because it has that cartoon feel. So I'm following the lines, kind of creating bands of color. So there's light bands and dark bands as I'm going around those leaves. And so that's what I'm doing is I want there to be stripes of color between the definition of the light and the dark, following the lines that are built into the stamp, if that makes sense. So I did my first layer, and now I'm going to come in and really deepen up those stripes. I come in with my darker color again and really deepen up the center and bottom of each of those leaves. And then I'll come in and really define the outline of each of those leaves. So you create this contrast between the light and the dark and create these stripy type pattern. And then last, I'm going to add a little bit of shadow all the way around using BG10, kind of mimics the sky, and it'll fill in those little white areas that I didn't color so it doesn't look so bare. And then the last little bit, I'm going to add some white gel pen just kind of following again the lines of the flowers and the leaves just to add a hint of white. Just kind of helps pop the colors behind it. That little bit of highlight just really finishes off the look of the stamp in the end. Perfect. Now that we're done, we're going to go ahead and start building up the card. I'm going to score at that 5.5 line where we stamped the bottom of the tulip flower. And then I'm going to grab my scissors and fussy cut around the top of the floral image. If you don't do the sky kind of border that I did, you'll want to leave a little bit of a border around the flowers. But since I did that sky border, I'm going to leave a little bit of a white border, kind of help that pop against the background of my card. And when you're done fussy cutting, you're going to want to flip your panel over and then put the back of the bottom of the tulips at the bottom of your work surface. And then we're going to stencil on some clouds using the Clouds and Waves stencil from Unity along the top of the panel. What I love about this stencil is there are 8 different clouds. All you have to do is kind of rotate it and then flip it, and then you have different looking clouds for each one as you move down the page. I'm only going to ink blend probably down the third of the panel. I want to leave some room for my sentiment at the bottom and then some room for writing. So I'm going to do probably about 4 rows of these clouds and then stop and call it a day. Now I've stamped the Sending Joy sentiment from the stamp set on some white cardstock and then die cut it with the scalloped and stitched nesting die set from Unity. And then I also have a colored butterfly that I fussy cut out, again from the stamp set. And I'm just getting an idea of where to put that butterfly and sentiment so it hides behind my front panel. I'm just going to use a ruler here to help keep my sentiment straight. And then I'm going to fold up my bottom fold with the flowers and then give it a good crease with a bone folder so it lays flat. And now I'm just going to get rid of the sides of the card here so the edges of the image is flush with the edge of the panel. And I like to do this while it's closed, that way everything lines up perfectly and it'll be a nice crisp edge. Perfect, that turned out really pretty. It looks like a field of tulips against a cloud sky. Love it. Great, now we just have to pick out a piece of colored cardstock to coordinate. I really love this teal, really helps those clouds pop. And I'm just going to put that down and then I'm going to glue this tulip panel straight to the center of this cardstock. And that's just going to be a backer for the tulip funfold panel. It'll just create a base for the card. That way it'll finish off those edges and give us a 4.25 by 5.5 inch card. Perfect. Now for the butterfly closure, I added 2 layers of foam tape and I'm just going to slide that in right above that notch in the tulip, and that'll create a little place for it to slide into and help keep the card closed. And then last I added a little glitter using a glitter pen. Mine just happened to dry up, so I'm dipping it into a refill. And here is the finished card. I just love how this fun fold creates a unique opening with the little butterfly acting as the perfect closure. The bold colored tulips really pop against the soft cloud background. It's just a great way to stretch your large floral stamps in a creative way. Visit Dahlhouse-Designs for a full supply list and more photos. Thanks for watching, and check out some of my other videos for more card making ideas. I'll see you again soon for another video. Bye!